بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء فاز من اعتصم بحبلكم وأمن من لجأ إلى حسنكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. In the name of God, the merciful, the beneficent, all prayer and praise is due to the Prophet Muhammad and his holy household. Brothers and sisters, tonight is the eve of Arbaeen, the commemoration of the 40th day after the martyrdom of the Imam Al-Hussein ibn Ali salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. I think it is fitting for us sitting here in Karbala to remember the stand of Imam Hussein and to remember the components of which or for which he decided to perish and he decided to give his life. We can look at it from two aspects, from two ways. Number one is the fact that Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi saw his victory through his bloodshed. And we see this repeated multiple times through his message. First and foremost, Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, he says, Allah wishes to see me martyred. And Allah wishes to see my women, my family, the females of my family members captivated. And that is something that we will have to come back to, so we'll put a pin in it for now. The other thing is Imam salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi continuously received advice from those around him regarding the fact that he should not go out, regarding the fact that he should not leave Mecca and go for Karbala. In fact, he should not only leave Mecca, but he should not leave Medina, and that he should give an allegiance or his vote, let's say, to Bani Umayyah. So keeping that in mind, consider the following. Number one, the Imam says, Ana ibn Rasulillah, I am the son of the Prophet Muhammad. We are the origin of the message. Through us Allah opened, and through us Allah shall seal. And someone like me does not give bay'ah to someone like him, like Yazid. However, before that, someone like me does not give bay'ah to someone like him. The Imam says, and Yazid is immoral, indecent, mischievous individual who murders and kills indiscriminately. He is a drunk, and he publicly announces his indecency and his immorality. And someone like me does not give an oath to someone like him. That is extremely important, brothers and sisters. We stand here today because we are standing in the face of oppression worldwide, regardless of where it is, regardless by whom it is. The Imam salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi says, I did not leave ashran wala bataran. I did not exit, I did not move, I did not revolt, mischievous or for no reason. Rather, I wanted to enjoin what is correct and forbid what is evil. وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. Those were his words. I wish to enjoin what is correct and forbid what is evil, what is wrong, what is mischievous. Then he says to them, do you not see that correct is not being enjoined, and that evil and wrong is not being forbid or condemned even? Therefore, the Imam saw an obligation upon him. Why did the Imam see it an obligation upon him? And is it an obligation solely on the Imam of his time? First of all, he saw an obligation on him because the memory of that religion, the conscience of the religion, started to perish due to Bani Umayyah. Second thing is, it is the obligation of every Muslim to ensure the continuation of Islam, the morals of Islam, the understanding of Islam, the faith, the ideology, and so on. So the Imam saw it as his opportunity to put an end to mischief, to awaken the consciousness of the Muslims that has been put to sleep by Bani Umayyah. However, that is only one component of Karbala, which is the martyr of Imam Hussein. And that martyr, that blood, would have been for naught had he not had the individual that supported him and that carried the message after his death. See, the Imam was killed. However, the Imam needed to ensure that after his death, his message lives on. His message continues. Therefore, he had one individual who carried the banner that he brought with him from his grandfather, the banner that was in the hand of Abil Fadl al-Abbas. That same banner was by theory in the hand of Zainab al-Aqil alayha salam. Zainab alayha salam carried that message forth. We see that when Zainab was taken into Kufa, they narrate that in Kufa, Zainab, when she entered the hall of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, or the castle of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, Zainab alayhi salam took a corner to the side so that she might not be recognized. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad alayhi la'natullah noticed that. So he says, who is that woman? The answer came, that is Zainab ibn Ali alayha salatu wassalam. They say Ubaydullah walked up to her and he says, I thank Allah who has disgraced you and your family and has falsified your claims. Sayyidah Zainab looked up and she said, she said, and I thank Allah who has blessed us and graced us through his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi. And know that disgrace comes to the false, and falsehood and falsifying comes to the mischievous and to the immoral, which is other than us. We're not that kind. He looks at her and he says, I thank Allah who has taken your he looks at her and he says, how do you see Allah's deeds within your family, within your brother and his outlaw companions? She looked at him and she said, I saw nothing but beauty. They are a group of men, a group of people. It was written upon them that they shall die. They were destined to die. So they arose to the occasion. Know that the day will come when you and them shall meet up, when you and them shall be brought together, and you will be argued against, and you will be found faulting. On that day your mother shall weep over you, O son of Marjana. She reminds him of his lineage, of the fact that his grandmother Marjana was a very well-known prostitute. She reminds him of who he comes from and where he comes from and who he killed. They say at that point he wanted to strike her, but a man came to him and said to him, what are you doing? She's a female. She has just gone through a calamity, through a tragedy. They say he looked at her and he said to her, Allah has remedied my heart through the death of your brother and your family and his companions. She looked at him and she said to him, you are correct. If the death of my brother and his companions remedies your heart, then your heart is remedied. No problem. She stood in that sense to a dictator. Then he threatened to kill Imam Zain al-Abidin. And the narration it says that he looked at Imam Zain al-Abidin and he says, who is this male? He wasn't expecting there to be any males left from Ahlul Bayt. He says, who is this man? They said, this is Ali ibn al-Hussein. He looked at him and said, I thought Allah had killed Ali ibn al-Hussein. The Imam looked up at him and he says, I have an older brother. I have a brother also named Ali. The people killed him. Ubaydullah gets upset and he says, no, Allah had killed him. The Imam looks at him and he says, Allah yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawtiha. Allah is the one who claims the souls when it's their time to go. Ubaydullah becomes upset and he says, you have the courage to reply to me? Immoral, indecent individual, an individual arrogant with his power and his money. So he says, you have the courage to reply to me, to answer me, to talk back? Kill him. At that time, Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam threw herself at her nephew. And she said, Ya Ubaydullah, hasbaka ma qatalt. Enough for you. You have already shed enough blood. If you want to kill him, then kill me before him. The Imam then says to her, Ya Amma, give me a minute. Let me speak to him. The Imam looks at him and he says, Abil Mawti tuhaddiduni. Is it through death that you think you can threaten me? Ama alimta anna al-mawta lana aada wa karamatuna min Allah shahada. Have you not known that death to us is but a habit, and that we have been graced from Allah through martyrdom? Nonetheless, Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam and his aunt Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salatu wasalam stood in the face of tyranny. We see that here. We also see that where in Sham, in Damascus, in Sham, when they entered the Levant, when they entered the city of Damascus, Yazid ibn Muawiyah was known for his hatred for the Ahlul Bayt. When they entered, there was an exchange, a dialogue exchange by Sayyidah Zainab and Yazid. Inshallah, we don't have time to go through the whole dialogue. However, we'll touch upon it. The dialogue had to do with Fatima, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein, where a man from Damascus wanted her as a concubine. Fatima says, I feared that they might do such a thing. So I said to my aunt, oh Amma, how could it be that I become an orphan and I become a concubine in the same day? After me becoming an orphan, I'll also be used? So Sayyidah Zainab said to her, La wala karama. Laysa lahum dhalik wala karama. They have no authority, no power to do so. Yazid heard that. He became upset. He says, no, I have the power and the capability to do so. She looked at him and she says, no, you don't, unless you decide to follow another religion. He said to her angrily, he says, it is your father and your brother who left the religion. She looked at him and she says, by the religion of Allah and my father and my brother, it is that you have been guided had you been a Muslim. If you were truly a Muslim, it is my brother, my father, that would have guided you to the deen of Allah. But subhanallah, could he be considered a Muslim? Nonetheless, that exchange carries on. Then he stands up arrogantly, proudly, and he says, oh, how I wish that my fathers during Badr were to see me now, and how I have killed their lords and their aristocrats from their family. Then they would have been overcome with joy, and they would have said, oh Yazid, may your arm never be harmed, may your hand never be harmed or hurt, may your hand never be paralyzed. قد قتلت القرن من ساداتهم وعدلنا ميل بدر فاعتدل لم أكن من خندف إن لم أنتقم من بني أحمد ما كان فعل. May I not be from my tribe of Khundaf if I do not take revenge from the family of Ahmed for what he has done. Nobody answers him, so Sayyidah Zainab stands up. Bi abi wa ummi. She stands up, and this time her action and her speak is directed towards him. And she says to him in a very long, due to the time we cannot narrate the whole lecture, however, the gist of what she says to him, she says, who do you see yourself? And don't think that me standing here comes easy. I belittle you. I find you useless and worthless and small. However, لكن العيون عبرة والصدور حرة ألا فالعجب كل العجب لقتل حزب الله النجباء بأيدي حزب الشيطان الطلقاء. Oh, how strange and how obscure it is that the warriors of Allah are killed by the warriors of the devil who have been set free. She reminds him of the fact that his father and his grandfather and his forefathers were set free by the Prophet Muhammad when he had the opportunity to kill them. All of that aside, she kept her grief to herself. She kept her grief within her heart. However, her grief was revealed on the day when she returned. On the day like tonight, like tomorrow morning, when the Imam Zainul Abidin and the women return to Karbala, and they are greeted by Jabir, Ridwanullahi alayhi. Jabir, who was a companion of the Prophet and who was a dear, close, beloved individual to Imam Hussein. Jabir alayhi salam, in the narration it says that when the servant came and told him, Ya Jabir, qum wastaqbal haram Allah. He said to him, Ya Jabir, qum wastaqbil, go, get up and receive, get up and greet the sacred family of Allah. Family meaning as in the status, as in that they hold the greatest grace and status in this world. They say when Jabir Jabir, who was blind at the time, was an old man and he was blind. When he came close to Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Zain al-Abidin said to him, "Jabirun hada?" قال بلى فداك جابر يا سيدي. He says, "Are you Jabir?" He says, "Yes, may I be sacrificed in your stead. I am Jabir." The Imam says to him, "Ya Jabir, ha huna qutila awladuna." Oh Jabir, this is where our boys and our men fell. Ya Jabir, ha huna subiyat nisauna. Oh Jabir, this is where our women were captive, who have became captives. Ya Jabir, ha huna qutila Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Oh Jabir, this is where Abu Abdullah was martyred. Right behind us, right where we see the shrine, that is where Abu Abdullah was martyred, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. That in one hand. In the other hand, however, they say that Zainab alayhi salam, when she came to this land, Zainab could not say her goodbyes to Imam al-Hussein. She could not say her goodbyes to Abil Fadl al-Abbas. However, this time she came, she could say her goodbye. They say Zainab alayhi salam came off of her camel, of her carriage, out of her carriage, and she was carrying something underneath her abba, underneath her cloak. When she came close to the grave of Imam Hussein, she unraveled her cloak and took out the head of Imam Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Zainab remained there. She would stand up from one grave, go to the next grave. A minute at the grave of her brother, a minute at the grave of her sons. He said, the narration says, then she stood up and she started looking around. She couldn't find what she was looking for. So Imam Zain al-Abidin came to her and he says, Amma Zainab, I know what you are looking for. She said, Bala bala dullani ala qabr ibn walidi. So he took her to the grave of her brother, Al-Abbas alayhi salam, the brother that was her kafil from the death of Imam Ali. On the deathbed of Imam Ali, she came to the Imam and she said to him, Ya Abba, oh my father, I want someone to take care of me, to be at my beck and call. He said, oh Zainab, you have Hassan and you have Hussein. She says, no, they are my Imams and I am the one that serves them. However, I want someone to serve me. He says, Ya Zainab, look at your brothers, choose one. So she looked around and her eye fell upon Imam al-Abbas, upon Abil Fadl al-Abbas, and she says, oh father, I want him, I want Abil Fadl. They say that Imam called Abil Fadl and he said to him, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali said, come here, Ya Abbas. And then he took his hand and he put Zainab's hand in his hand and he says, Akhi Bunay Abbas, هذه وديعتي عندك. Bunay Abbas, I trust her to you, no other. You are to be at her beck and call. And he was so until his dying moment, until his final moment. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhima. Therefore, brothers and sisters, when we stand here, we don't stand here simply to think of the fact that this is a land, a sacred land. We should stand here to understand and feel what they felt. Imam al-Hussein did his part by dying for this faith. Sayyidah Zainab did her part by ensuring that we received this faith and the message of Imam Hussein. Now it is our part to ensure that we properly deliver this message of Ahlul Bayt to the world. That we stand with righteousness and against corruption anywhere in the world, against anyone in the world, Muslim or non-Muslim, Shi'i or non-Shi'i, white, black, brown, yellow, whatever race, whatever color you have. We stand with humanity and nothing else. We do not care what race you are. We do not care what faith you are. So long as you are on the right path, so long as you are oppressed, we should stand by your side. There is no oppression that we can allow or we can stand by, whether it be done by a Muslim or a non-Muslim, whether it be done for my benefit or for another's benefit. Imam al-Hussein is the father of free men. Freedom is not doing what you want, when you want, how you want, the way you want. Freedom is standing with right. Freedom is standing with piety and righteousness in the face of evil, even if it causes your blood. That's why Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he is the father of free men, because he stood, and as the poet claims, as the poet says on his behalf, speaking about the situation, the Imam says, if the situation, the poet says that in the situation, if the deen of Muhammad, if the religion of Muhammad was to not be alive or was not to continue unless through my blood, then may these swords take me. I ask Allah بحق الحسين الوجيه وبحق جده وأبيه وبحق أمه وأخيه وبحق أبي الفضل العباس. اللهم بحق المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، اللهم بحق الأنبياء أجمعين والملائكة المقربين، فرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد ولينا يا الله وكثرة عدونا وقلة ناصرنا. إلهي منذ الحسين إلى الآن ونحن قليلين الناصر. Oh Allah, from the time of Imam Hussein until now, we have but a few individuals that are considered our allies. Allahumma, we complain to you of the fact that our Mawla is not with us. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه يا الله وأوسع منهجه. اللهم اسلك بي محجته بحق الحسين وآل الحسين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وأرواح من مات على الهدى والإيمان. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.